It's Hallelujah 95.3 FM. Every Wednesday from 2 to 3. Here is where you wanna be. Call a neighbor, call a friend. Everybody tuning in. Wake up, Wednesday. Wake up, wake up, Wednesday. And now here's your host, Greg James. Want to say good afternoon and once again welcome to, that's right, Hallelujah 95.3 FM. It's the highest praise, and it is the Greg James Community Show. Listen, we're excited about what's taking place on today. The conscious chick is on her way. She told me she got held up in a little bit of traffic, but we are live. Go ahead on and tag, share, and let's get everybody into the broadcast on today. Certainly, we want to say we got some interesting conversations we're going to have. We're going to be talking a little later on to the new Leon County School Board Chairman, Dr. Marcellus Nicholas. We're going to be talking to him shortly. Also, so much is going on. People are loading up, getting ready to go to the big city of Orlando. The big question that's out in the community, is there a curfew at 6 p.m.? We're going to tell you a little bit more about that. Also, listen, it's been a great week. The recovery of Ethan was on display, and we thank God for all of your prayers. He was at the game on Saturday. Warm welcome, and miracles are still happening. And I tell you, there's some great things that are in store. Go ahead on and tag, share. Let's get everybody in. Certainly want to say thank you for all of you who have been contributing to Project 1000. Thank you to the visionary of the Urban League, Curtis Taylor, and certainly the Big Bend Head Start program has been blessed by the efforts that you put forth to help in securing the proper diet for our children. So thank you, Tallahassee. Thank you, friends. Thank you, neighbors. I'm just praying and believing that we can put together a very, very strong collaborative group that can stay together, work together, and make things happen together. Understand that was an amazing town hall on last evening over at Watson Temple. We'll be talking a little bit about that and so much more. Well, as we get ready to dive into our program, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors. That's right, Kingdom First Roofing, and we're celebrating them for being our sponsor today. KFR Roofing, providing solutions, dependable roofing and more. Fresh repair and store. KFR Roofing, providing solutions, dependable roofing and more. Fresh repair and store. There's a leak in this old building. Refresh, repair, restore, and get 5 years or more. What are you waiting? Go ahead on tag shit.
In light of the recent natural disaster, you need a local roofing solution you can trust. KFR Roofing Solutions is a fully licensed and insured contractor ready to serve you. Call us today at 850-576-1032. From new roofs, roof repairs, and a revolutionary shingle treatment that rejuvenates and saves you thousands. We offer fair prices for the consumer with warranty options that exceed other companies. Visit us at kfrroofing.com or give us a call at 850-576-1032.
Let's get ready, Tallahassee and the surrounding areas. Come on, let's do it.
Tragedies are commonplace. All kinds of diseases, people are slipping away. Economy's down, people can't get enough pay. As for me, all I can say is thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. Yeah. Folks some say they just can't be.
That's right. There's so much going on in and around our city, but we need each other. And certainly we're excited about what's happening in our capital city. New leadership is taking place around the city. Certainly there's a new leader that's taking on the role at the county commission seat. And there is a new leader now leading the Leon County School Board. I want to say good afternoon to Dr. Marcus Nicholas. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, Pastor James. I'm doing fantastic. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. Joining us in the studio now is none other than the conscious chick. She has arrived. On the air with us now is the new school board chairman, Dr. Marcus Nicholas.
Chair Nicholas, good afternoon.
I'm great. How are you, Christine?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So let's talk a little bit about your tenure on the school board. Now you've been on the school board now for about what, 8 years?
No, actually, it feels like 8 years.
Feels like
I'm
just
just
four.
rounding year
You're
3.
kidding.
And so I'm walking into year 4.
You are kidding me.
No,
I
I've
guess
just been doing, you know this. I campaigned even after the first loss, so it feels like 8
Oh,
years. But it's only been 4.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we want to say that, first of all, we want to congratulate you and our audience. We want our audience to know that right now at Leon County School, there is a new chairperson who's leading the task of ensuring that our school and our education system goes to the highest of heights under the leadership of Dr. Marcus Nicholas. So two things happened while you were on school board. One, you completed your doctorate in the course of working, serving as school board member, being a parent, being community member. How did you do it all?
I put my head down and I went to work. I looked up and they said, congratulations.
Wow. Wow.
That's how it happens.
I mean, that's what happens to all of us. All of us wear hats. I know
Mhm.
you do so much. Christine does so much. All we do is the work.
The work is something else, though. But I think it's also key to focus that your campaign and your subsequent work on the school board has had a specific emphasis on the capability and the consciousness of the plight of Black boys in the school system. I think that that's really important to pull out because, as you know, the success rate among African American males is of critical concern. And why is that important for us? Because that represents the economic value of those, the life value, the perceived value of young men who matriculate through and from the school system. Can you speak to your work that you have been able to do and how you've been able to enable policies through the school board to just kind of address those issues as you've seen them?
Absolutely. So it's interesting you mentioned that my dissertation was called The Miseducation of Black Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you start there and you understand that there's a miseducation, there's some missing links, there's some gaps that we need to fill for our Black boys, because it's not that they don't have the potential, they've just been severely miseducated. What does miseducated mean? Well, I got to see that firsthand when I was a teacher.
Yeah.
As I'm working in the community, you get to see what that miseducation looks like. It doesn't look like that they're incapable. It just looks like they need a little bit of guidance. They're doing all that they need to do, but somehow there's still a gap. There's still something missing. They're still being mislabeled as, fill in the blanks, however you want to mislabel them.
Mm-hmm.
They're still being mislabeled. What we also found while I was on the school board, because I've asked for this study, is that many of them are scoring levels 5 on their standardized tests, but they also have some of the highest referral rates.
Mm-hmm.
That's the miseducation. That's the mislabeling, right? Are they bored? So it's really important for us to dig into not just the data, because the data are the numbers, but the people, right? Look at them as individuals as opposed to a whole subsector of boys. They are individual young men who deserve a chance, who deserve to matriculate at the same rate as they're capable of matriculating. And so, you know, when I started, I specifically, when I started with the school board, I specifically said I am going to be unapologetic for serving the people who look like me. I was one of those boys in high school, in middle school, and in elementary school who got in a lot of trouble because I had been mislabeled, I had been misunderstood, and I had been mischaracterized.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's why it's been so important to me as not only a high school teacher, but in my research endeavors that I address this particular demographic of students.
You know, I think it is so important as we look at the future of the school system that we recognize, as you did, that there are different subsection of students. They're different, and not all Black boys are the same, right? Even in that, there's some categorizations. But I think paying attention overall to globally that this is a different aspect. We're not talking about the bell curve where we're taking different races and we're saying that this one is better. No, we're taking subsets and we're saying, okay, how do they learn? How do they matriculate through the system? How is the system serving them? What are barriers to them to succeeding within the construct that we have provided for them? And I think that your leadership is empowered and impassioned by that and saying, look, we don't just have a, milquetoast student base here. We have all different types of students. And we have to be proactive in understanding them so that we can create a system that they can win at, they can succeed. And how do you see that being instructed to instructors? Because we know a lot of time the breakdown from that comes by the actors, right? It's not necessarily policy that breaks it down. Sometimes it's policy that preempts it, but it's the actors. How does that materialize? Or how does this base of study materialize into training?
In a couple ways. Number one, that the actors are not just the ones between the 8 o'clock bell and the 3 o'clock bell that teaches a student. We got to get back to the village model. And so here's what I want to employ. And here's what, since I've had a megaphone, I've always preached that we should remove from our lexicon the phrase, college is not for everyone. Let's remove that, right? Because the moment you tell someone college is not for everyone, then the other post-secondary opportunities for them feels less than, right? So instead of us saying college is not for everyone, what we should say is what's next. Ask the student what's next. Be curious about what they're doing. And that goes for every actor, not just the teachers, but the entire village. What's next, right? Get them to start thinking about what they want to do, as opposed to implanting, the term college or college is not for everyone, because then again, you pit one against the other. The next thing, and this speaks to actually my school board tenure, is we have to start preparing for the future and not the past. So every year we turn over the same courses, year after year after year. Sometimes those courses, and specifically we're talking about CTE courses, and my colleague, Vice Chair Daryl Jones, preaches this all the time. We have to invest and we have to destigmatize career and technical education. And not to say that you go to career and technical education if you can't go to a Research One institution, but to your point, we have to understand interest and align interest with the talent and the skill and the know-how so that they can be successful, all students, and earn gainful employment. So we have to include those kinds of courses in our catalog, and those courses have to be up to date. So as the school board chair, that's actually one of my priorities, is to do program audits on all the CTE courses to ensure that they align with industry level market labor practices and needs in this community and surrounding communities.
Wow, that is amazing. And I think I want to ask you this because this is going to be so vital for our community to embrace your role and embrace your voice and your leadership at the school level. With the climate that we're in, when it comes to, when we look at the Department of Education, when we look at our school system, and we look at your role, how important is it for you as the I want to say the one that's going to navigate us through some of the turbulent times that we're facing? How important is it for you to be able to embrace the opportunity to call upon community and to be engaged with the community from your leadership role now?
It's a fantastic question. I can't do what I can do. We can't do what we want to do without the community. We have to, number one, be able to decipher between the noise and what's actually fruitful,
Right.
and will advance our cause. So we have to be wise in how we sift through the noise.
All right.
And then we have to call on those community members who are not just making noise, who are about that action, and who actually wants to, roll their sleeves up. And if we need to make pancake breakfasts on Monday or Saturday to get the people out there, we're gonna make the pancakes, right? Because these are the people that's out there getting the work done. They're bringing the people to us. The hardest thing that we have, speaking of community, to your point, the hardest problem that we have is getting people to come out, right? We got to get them to come out. We know we got the information for them, but you just got to show up sometime.
Wow.
Just show up, and it's there. So we're going to need community to help them help them show up.
I think, Marcus, that first of all, because I know you, and when I say I know this brother,
Mm-hmm.
know his heart. I understand. I've read his dissertation that this is a community. This is my brother on these streets. I think that it's important, especially in these times where you're dealing with school choice, especially in this time when you have competing agendas, especially in this time where you have, political favoritism towards specific types of things, that you do activate. I know there's a council, a community group that meets I know there's the SAC that meets at the school level, and then there's the DAC that meets at the district level. Is there anything, and Daryl has done some of this through cultivation in support of the Title I schools, but is there any pathway to train community folks on district objectives, district ecosystem, so that we better understand the ecosystem, so that we in turn can direct folk better, right? Because I think it goes into a conversation about, ecosystem efficiency. And I think that without knowledge, people think that these institutions are monoliths, right? And that you got to know the man sitting next to the man sitting next to the man to be able to get anything moving forward. Talk to me about those types of efforts, because I sat through a community meeting last night, and I've been listening to the tenor of the meeting, and you're right. You have to break through some of because if not, you're going to have people that make merchandise of the noise. And it's important for people who can translate things well to know enough to translate. Has there been any conversation or any thoughts in mind to maybe do that? Maybe not once a quarter, but maybe once a semester, right? Just to gather community people together, to explain, to empower, to answer questions. Or is that an opportunity that they have at the school board meeting on Tuesdays?
Congratulations, you just added to my platform. No, that doesn't exist. I think that's a brilliant idea. And it's not that we hadn't thought about it. It's just that sometimes you need somebody to say, you needed to come from a grassroots, community trusted voice. And so you are that person. So congratulations, you just added to the platform.
Oh dear. Well, not that you don't have a whole lot of work to do, because you definitely have your hands full coming in, but you've had great predecessors. You have a great spirit. You have a great heart for this community. In our last couple of moments of being able to share, talk to us a little bit about the state of the school board to like I said, de-escalate noise, help people understand where we are and where they can plug in to be involved.
Well, there's no secret that next year's budget, similar to this year's budget, is looking bleak. It's been all over social media, and I would be remiss if I did not take a few minutes to address that.
Okay.
Just so that you know, during our retreat, we're going to be looking at opportunities or potential cuts from our budget. Understand that as we're looking at those potential cuts, there will be strategic cuts and not across the board cuts. They're going to be student-centered cuts and not just arbitrary cuts. We're going to convene multiple sessions, including our board retreat, in order to make these kinds of decisions, especially if legislation rolls over the same amount of money that it rolled over this past year to support our schools. As insurance, our insurance rates went up by 8% last year. FRS goes up. You know, everything is going up, and yet we're getting the same budget. So, you know, under my tenure, unlike, you know, it's going to be similar to, you know, hard conversations that had to happen when Dee Rasmussen led the COVID, you know, school board meetings, and when Joy Bowen led returning back to schools meetings. They were difficult conversations. And so this is going to be a difficult conversation that I'll have to navigate.
And I want people who are listening to understand that, you know, you're hearing it here first in regards to the chair conveying that there are going to be budget cuts. We already know that there is a decrease in revenue. Budget cuts are going to come, but a lot of times people don't feel budget cuts until they feel budget cuts, until it cuts something from them. It cuts after school program. It cuts to this, it cuts to that. At this moment, as you're considering those cuts, and I know you don't know, or you may know, what historically has been the first thing that leaves, or the first thing that is cut when those conversations occur. I know we had previous conversations about facility transitions and things of that sort. Are you comfortable in speaking to that, or would you like us to just stay tuned?
I think there's an opportunity for me to come back on the show if asked, in order to present some of the proposals. What I've asked for, even as of last night, was anything that was presented to us that is presented to us, both with the challenges that comes with it, as well as the benefits that comes with this kind of cut. And so that we can understand to ensure that the benefits don't outweigh the challenges and the challenges don't outweigh the benefits. It's going to be balanced, fair, and transparent conversation that we're going to have in the public space.
Agreed. Well, listen, we are staying tuned. The school board serves all of our families in this region, population upwards of 400,000 citizens, who the school board serves education needs of our children in this community. You had a big old job with a big old budget, and we know that you're having to maneuver to be able to break even, which is the role of the board, which is to ensure the fiscal viability of the school district. And we thank you for your service. We thank you for your advocacy, and we will be on post for any way that we can support you in your work in this upcoming year.
I thank you both.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. And certainly thank you for carving out the time to be with us.
Yes.
Hey, that's Leon County Chair Marcus Nicholas, man, doing an amazing job at the work that he's been called to do.
And I think that calling is a real interest. I think calling is probably the best word for it at this level. As we know now, with what happened with Head Start, with folks working for free because they knew that they had to continue to be on mission. As we see with different entities that are really I mean, we're really beginning to feel the results of public policy shifts, and it's really kind of ideological shifts, right? And I've sat in on meetings and on town hall meetings, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Pastor. I found myself a little frustrated.
Mhm.
If I'm honest with myself, I found myself a little frustrated, and I had to call a mentor of mine to say, you know, and among other words, why are we like this? Why are we like this? And when I say we, I'm talking about us as a community, as the
Right.
beloved community. And she said so simply, after listening so diligently, she said, Christique, we're like this because we've had to be.
Wow.
She said, we are like this because we've had to be. She said, we've not shifted to deal with the new realities. We're still functioning old modalities. And we need a new generation of leadership to marry the old with the new. And y'all got a job to play. And so a job to do. And so folks like Marcus Nicholas and these new leaders that are coming up, we got a job to do. You have to respect the old because it's what we've had to be. But we also have to graciously bring in the new. Because this ain't 1965. It echoes that in some regards, in regard to flashbacks for other people. But the issues are different. The way that they're formed are different. And we're going to be talking about issues that are upcoming in 2025, 2026 that we need to be looking at.
And I think what is so important in what you just said, the issues are different. And I think that we cannot, it's not fair for us to sit here with the space we're in and with the number of listeners that are tuned in and not give an in-depth commentary on both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
I mean, what we feel like is bad is only because we haven't been informed of the totality of what's being presented. I'm working with a group right now, and we're working on the compact higher education presentation that was made, and it was designed for special schools. But however, because some of the people that I'm working with are at the table, they're now making that narrative for HBCUs. Now, here's the problem. When we don't have full information, automatically we say, oh, no, that's not for me. That's not for us. And I think we do a disservice by not diving into all of the opportunities and understanding clearly whether it's an increase in tax or whatever the case might be. We've got to be voices to give people an opportunity to know more about a situation.
Yeah.
And I just got off a call with about 15 different HBCUs, along with the team that I'm working with, along with Department of Education out of Washington, sharing with them the importance of this moment that we in when it comes to post-secondary education. So I think that the Conscience Chick is a name that really has molded you into this space, because it's the conversations that we're going to have going forward, such as. So, I wanted to be really meticulous about talking about issues, because what now people are doing is they're calling me, they're calling you, and they're asking about stuff, right? And they're asking about complicated stuff, right? It ain't, who do I need to call to get my car washed? It ain't, no. Who I need to call to get my HVAC fixed. They're asking about complicated, high level issues. And I think for me, obviously we grown, so we need to be ready to handle this grown up business. Absolutely. But at the same token, I think that folk need to understand that things are not black and white. They are very complicated. There are no single melodies happening in this public space. Everything is layered. Everything is everything's in bed with each other, and you got to know how things are pulled together so that you can understand how to fight. You can understand where your fight is, if there's a fight, right? And so I think for us in this Big Bend region, issues, went to a session last night about the
about the hospital,
But
the
before
ongoing
wait,
conversation.
wait.
Yeah.
Now, before you went to the hospital session, I wasn't there, but wasn't you at a housing session?
Yeah, child.
Because-
Before
So-
I went to the hospital.
Because listen, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I heard you were
I
at
was
a
at.
housing session.
I
So
was.
the bottom line to it is the issues that we're facing. We've got to discuss it.
We've got to discuss. We got to be ready to discuss them, and it can't be my opinion.
No.
Right? It can't be how I feel. It's got to be raw data, and the raw facts is this: we have a housing ecosystem here that, by federal statute, serves the vulnerable, serves the poor via the Tallahassee Housing Authority, of which I am honored to serve as a member of their commission. I'm a commissioner of their board, and I serve as the chair.
Well,
This
wonderful.
year.
So today is the chairman day.
So,
Well,
well, today is the chair. Well, thank you, but listen, it's more ceremonial than anything, because as he said the other day, we can't do this thing without community. There are lots of ways to examine what we have, but also to forecast where we need to go, because we are in a housing affordability crisis here. There's a shortage, a real one. There's a real shortage. The Housing Authority itself, it houses thousands of residents and clients and Section 8 voucher recipients. It houses them in properties, but it also gives vouchers for them to find somewhere to stay too. That funding will be cut. And so and now keep in mind that funding will be cut, but it doesn't eliminate the voucher.
Yeah.
It just means that there are unfunded vouchers.
Now, and what happens to those residents, tenants who are living with those vouchers that will be connected?
That remains to be seen. And I think that we have to be forward thinking in regards to, on the local level, how do we absorb the impact of national activity, right? Of national policy? And so, we have to deal with housing affordability that factors into neighborhood vitality, neighborhood revitalization efforts that are ongoing, and homelessness, right? Because a percentage of our housing stock caters to the very low to no income persons. Then we have a homelessness ecosystem that has temporary housing, but now some of our vendors are and correctly, it may not have gone over well optically, but it costs money to house homelessness. It's not something that generates revenue. There's not enough grants out there to cover the real cost of homelessness in Tallahassee. And people don't understand that people come to Tallahassee to be homeless. They come here to be homeless. So the housing issue is a big thing. We deal with the area of housing, those that are within the Tallahassee Housing Authority system. We are trying to do our best to make sure holistically we're building not just housing accessibility, but quality of life and sustainability to get people ready to phase out of the system, right? That they are at sustainable, personal sustainability. They don't need a voucher. They don't need assistance. They can sustain. They got jobs. They have sense. They can function on their own. But it's a big job. So shout out to all of the folks who are serving, all of the staff. That's Brenda Williams, who received a proclamation from the county yesterday because of her work. It's a yeoman's task pulling that agency, particularly in these times. And they have development assets that total, they have a budget to spend just on the most recent one, $80 million. That's not pocket change. And so if people are wondering how they can jump in, I think the first level of this is to learn how this stuff works. And we need to elevate the work of the Housing Authority and make it a leader in the housing ecosystem, because we serve, quite frankly, the most in the area. And we have to have a plan. We have to have a plan for folk to be able to get to sustainability, so that the folk on the 33,000 person waiting list can move in. Yeah. And so I think that we need to be thinking about that.
And I think that's where community collaboration. The community. Just from this Project 1000 ideal, the faith leaders and the community has such a valuable role when it comes to what we're facing. So we're going to be talking more about housing, but you went on to a meeting on last evening.
Then I went to another meeting by Tallahassee Alert and the NAACP. They hosted a meeting. Shout out to Nicole Everett, Chuck Hobbs, Dr. Strobel, Mutaki Akbar. I'm forgetting some folks. I know I am. The president of the NAACP. All the good people trying to do the good work of getting voice heard. They had on the panel among others. They had Gary Orton on there, who was representing the interests of TMH. And people have feelings about this transition, about this sale. Okay, I will call it this transfer of assets. And I think that it's so complicated, but it has so many implications. It has implications on the state level. It has implications on the local level. There's some federal implications in regards to how hospitals are funded and systems and things in sort. There's implications in terms of what TMH is, which is a private organization, right? That has an agreement with the city to operate on city property, right? And so understanding that and the implications in that, what's the relationships, what's the supports, what has been the history, right, of making resources available for functionality that benefits the entire community. It is such a non-black and white issue. And I think we get caught up in personalities and we don't see that this stuff to work together is so interwoven with each other. And so when decisions like this come about, sometimes it ain't the Klansman, with a stick. Sometimes it's just, this is the best situation. This looks like the best situation at the time. You get what I'm saying? And so now the lack of trust thereof is at fever pitch. And it's unfortunate.
It is. And do you feel like, we're at this place because in your terms or in my terms, we're at this place. Do you feel like we're there because there has not been the opportunity for our elected officials to really have these meaningful conversations throughout the city? Should this have been a situation that gave the kind of voice and the kind of involvement to you're not going to satisfy everybody, but at least give the real understanding of what's being at stake and how this transferring of properties is taking place? Do you feel like that was adequately positioned for our community?
I think that city operated and city owned is two different things. And I think we need to understand that. I think city owned property that is leaseholded to another private organization. And I'm going to say this with my chest. TMH is a private organization. You and I don't have the authority to go to TMH and ask them for their books. We don't have the authority to go and ask them for their records. We don't have like we do with the city of Tallahassee. We can make public records requests of the city of Tallahassee. We can't do that with TMH. They are a private organization that has a contract for leasehold interest in land based upon, acts and legislation that far exceeds our history, right? And so I think that that's the mix-up, right? It's city property and the transfer is an issue, but I think that the conversation here is understanding public finance, understanding how things happen on public books, how public revenues, how public credit works. And really, somebody needs to speak to this in terms of what this does for the city, as opposed to what the city is doing in this realm. What does this do for the city? What is the benefit to the city to transfer what we understand is a large, valuable asset that makes $1 a year for us? Okay. It has great, tremendous value, but it makes $1 a year for the citizens of the city. What is going to be the benefit of the sale to the residents of the city? I think that needs to be clarified. But I also think it is such a high level conversation that unfortunately, even if you explained it,
people still wouldn't. But at least you have given an explanation. So where we do, well, let me ask you this, and I think that I listened in on the meeting on last evening, and I heard so many concerns, and my question to myself, are these concerns coming in at the ninth inning when the game is almost over? I mean, it's like you're in the ninth inning of a baseball game and the score is 5-1. It's 3 balls, 2 strikes, and nobody's on base. I mean, the reality of it is there's going to be a sale. There's going to be I don't know whether you want to call it a merger. I don't know whether you want to call it a partnership, but whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And the reality of it is it's already done.
Well, and I think that that's demoralizing a little bit, in thought. But I think that for me as a resident and as a citizen, as somebody who's not better than anybody, but who's just a nerd, I'm just a geek. I care enough to research stuff.
What does your research tell you then?
The research is saying that anytime something of this magnitude and gravity is happening, you need to see what the magnetic force is behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to see what it is. It's not just somebody doing favors. There's got to be greater force at play to render such a great gravitational shift such as this. And I think that's what I'm paying attention to. But I also am glad that groups like Tallahassee Alert and NAACP are now putting a lot of focus on, okay, so what happens with the revenues, right? What happens with the monies that come as a result of the transfer? Okay, that's important. That's extremely important. What happens to the viability of the Bond Community Health Center, of the neighborhood health centers, of the Big Ben Cares and CarePoint Health Centers? What role do they play in showing up the gap, right? Mm-hmm. Because this is an ecosystem conversation, and TMH is not going to cease to exist. They're going to continue to exist. Their landlord will just now be FSU Health once that shift happens. And there's a lot of speculation on the implications of that. But I think that we need to focus, if we care about that, we need to focus and learn from it.
Okay.
We need to learn from that.
Yeah.
So, I would encourage the residents, encourage citizens. I always try to be optimistic, but I also encourage people to do their homework and to really, really understand things. Don't allow talking points and influential persons to cause you to draw conclusions where there might not be a conclusion, because everything is not black and white. It is layered. There are so many different layers to it. And a lot of that takes time to peel back. But what about when you don't have time to peel it back? What if the circumstances at such a fever pitch that you just don't have time to peel it back? And I think that is reasonable to say, that is rational to say. And I just hope that our community can address the trust issues that we have, but also that we can learn more so that we can be empowered to understand more, so that we're not looking through the lens of distrust at all actions that happen. So anyway, and that goes to a number of different issues that we're going to be facing. One other issue that we need to be mindful of moving forward is that there are communities that are still recovering from the hurricanes. We have huge issues still remaining from the storms that came in 2023, like Debbie and Helene. Taylor County and Keaton Beach, they were wiped out. And so those rural communities are still digging themselves out, if you will. And it's a mess with the insurances and that's a whole nother issue in and of itself. So, rebuilding housing and small businesses in our coastal neighbor towns, our relative towns, and hardening of infrastructure on roads and sewer and power evacuation. You saw just how developed those communities were when that storm came in. And I'm gonna tell you, when you look at it in comparison to Tallahassee, you can say we have a lot to be grateful for. We have a lot to be grateful for that we've invested the capital resources to have hardening and infrastructure on a public level. Because these places, they don't have it. And the storms, they were coming, they kept coming. So in 2026, we'll probably be looking at how much state money comes to rural, coastal, and county areas versus large metros. It's going to be a fight. And it's not going to be a fair fight because the rural counties will most likely get what they need to continue their recovery. So it'll be interesting to see how largely Democratic metros fare against largely Republican outlying coastal and smaller counties.
But don't you think it's so important that we become aware even the more of what we're going to be dealing with, so that we have a clear understanding of how to see the bigger picture?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that we discuss these kinds of topics right here.
Listen,
because when people don't know, they act out, and then when they find out, it's a different story.
Well, you are looking at a rural rising. A lot of the areas around us, because of large county focus, the rural renaissance that Corey Simon has been largely leading through his service in the Senate. I mean, the rural communities that are really getting resources and applying them properly, they are rising. They are using them in ways that fit their values. And so the resilience funding, this is what they're calling, that stuff can be flexed and used however these areas want to use them, but they can also be used in historically underinvested neighborhoods and not just on the rural beachfront. So that'll be something to look at and keep track of as well. This other thing that we need to be talking about is, okay, what time is it?
Well, before we do that, there is a post on social media about a curfew being put in place as people travel to Orlando. I just got off the phone with the chief of police out of Eatonville, Florida.
Okay, and what's happening in Orlando this weekend?
It's the big game.
It's the classic.
It's the classic.
Okay.
So I just got off the phone with the chief of police in Eatonville, who used to be a sheriff and used to be in a major position at the sheriff department in Orlando, and used to be a member of Mount Zion. So he's getting ready to get me in touch with somebody from Orlando,
okay,
so that we can bring them on the air, if not here on the Dr. D show, to talk about what is in place in Orlando. I mean, social media has a way of reading, but they're not understanding. And then they're like, they telling us we can't be out at 6. So we're going to get clarity so that you'll be aware of what's going on in Orlando, Florida, in this Orlando Classic weekend.
That's awesome. That's good. It's 2:55. I hope they do call in time, or they can get in on Dr. D. That's an important conversation.
Absolutely.
And in closing, with the issues that are coming, my husband had the opportunity to go to a meeting where they were discussing some of the House and Senate bills to eliminate homestead property taxes. And so with 5 minutes left on the show, this is not enough to deal with this potential topic. I know when I said that, whoever's listening that are in city and county government probably did the big rumble, like, but this conversation is gaining energy as it relates to property taxation, the legalities of property taxation. And they are asking the state to remove the ability of municipalities and counties to be able to levy taxes, particularly on people who own homestead properties first. But it's a gradual rescinding of this concept that we have come to know as property taxes. And so I think that if anything, if it's just a conversation that's happening now, we need to be tracking that conversation, because we know that funding for infrastructure, funding for citizen services, funding for government comes primarily from the property tax. They share that among all the different entities and agencies. And it allows them to have the staff and allows them to have the ability to support local infrastructure, local systems, local public safety, and to see that being that ability to tax homestead properties at first, it's going to be a key conversation that we follow. I've heard some and seen some things where there's some initial reaction from public officials about how that will impact their ability to provide citizen services. Unfortunately, sometimes when these rollbacks happen, the first thing on the chopping block is parks and recreation and things that people consider, auxiliary amenities to communities. But a lot of those things are the reason why communities have such vitality and such interest. They add value to spaces and communities that they're placed in. And so I think that it's going to be really interesting to follow that conversation. And I think that we need to be extremely well educated on not just its impacts, but we need to be understanding how local property taxes work and how they're being assessed. Also, the last issue that we need to be addressing here on the local level is the fact that there's a lawsuit that is coming about as a result of the fire service fees.
Wow, that's right.
They
Absolutely.
are going to be suing the city as it would appear, because they feel that the fire services fee that they are levying are illegal and unconstitutional. I think that that's going to be an interesting watch to see how that progresses. So, lots going on that could impact folks at the cellular level, and we need to be quantum community-minded folks to look at things under a microscope and see all the organisms that make up the whole, so that we can adequately and effectively advise and advocate.
Wow. And I think that's so important. So, we are excited about some of the upcoming shows. We're
Yes.
excited about some of the upcoming guests. And certainly it's going to be very informative as we move forward, because we're moving into a year where information is going to be
Yes.
key to
Yes.
us moving forward and making decisions. Listen, I just got off the phone, and we're going to continue this conversation probably with Doc D show with someone from Orlando Sheriff's Office, giving him a call later. But in regard to the special event zone that they have in effect in Orlando, they are saying that these special event zones between 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. To 8 p.m.
Okay.
from Thursday to Monday. If cars are gathering in private property areas, parking lots, the sheriff's department office is going to be patrolling areas like Colonial Drive, John Young Parkway, Old Winter Garden, Ferguson Drive, Tampa Avenue. And if cars are parked in these zones with the music going, and how
Right.
that the gatherings are taking place, they are going to be asked to leave, and they're going to disperse those gatherings.
Okay.
So from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m., it's going to be a heavy flow of law enforcement in these areas that are located on your Facebook page. So there's not a curfew, but you just can't be gathering in these private parking lots, private stores, kind of like how they do with homecoming. They blocked off Piggly Wiggly to keep people from gathering, and they're understanding that there's going to be an excessive amount of traffic. And so that's what that's about. So, sometimes we read things and we make posts and we just get carried away in our comments.
Yeah, well, I think that it's good that they're being proactive to advise of that, because then when things go down, folk know, and hopefully they won't be like, well, we always did so and so. Look,
it ain't gonna always be the same. Well, listen, it's been an amazing day. We get ready to close out with our sponsors. Thank God for Kingdom First Roofing. and they are a major sponsor of this broadcast. And even being a major sponsor, they told us, that we don't have to be mindful of what we say. We just can't just have to mind what we say.
Oh, we are so grateful for sponsorships. If you want to be one, let us know.
Let us know. With that being said, Kingdom Roof,
KF
Roofing
Solutions
is taking us off the air. Until next week, you be blessed and have an enjoyable time in the Orlando area if you're going.
Right. Sounds good.
KFR Roofing, providing solutions, dependable roofing and more. Fresh repair and store. KFR Roofing, providing solutions, dependable roofing and more. Fresh repair and store. There's a leak in this old building. Fresh repair and store.
They gave me a little Christian song. There's a leak in this old building.
In light of the recent natural disaster, you need a local roofing solution you can trust. KFR Roofing Solutions is a fully licensed and insured contractor ready to serve you. Call us today at 850-576-1032. From new roofs, roof repairs, and a revolutionary shingle treatment that rejuvenates and saves you thousands. We offer fair prices for the consumer with warranty options that exceed other companies. Visit us at kfrroofing.com or give us a call at 850-576-1032.
That's our sponsor.
Hallelujah, 95.3 FM and 14.